Hello everyone and welcome to a special speed build. Today it is the build of Machu Picchu, as you have seen hopefully already from the thumbnail. I am going to create this map for you so you can download this from the description below and use it as a starter map with the new DLC of Planet Zoo. Today we are going to talk a lot about the Inca city on the mountain of Picchu, and I definitely want to recommend to watch till the end, because at the end I'm going to tell you how you can win a copy of the wonderful DLC in case you haven't got it already by purchasing it. So if you want to have like a DLC code, stick with me, I will give you the information at the end, or you just check the description because there's all the info you need in there as well. Okay, now let's get things started, and first of all a little disclaimer. I'm very sorry about my voice, very much in time of the new DLC. My pollen allergy is very at its peak and it's very hard for me to speak at least somewhat enjoyable and not too nosy. You cannot believe how incredibly painful it is at the moment. I'm just drinking, I think, 7-8 times as much as normally to make sure that my voice somehow is working, and I need to pause the recording every 2 or 3 minutes because I just cannot do it before my voice breaks. You can already tell it's already starting to break again. So yeah, we are going to talk about the Inca in specific in a bit now, because this is definitely a very interesting culture, and this is definitely something we should talk about for today's video, because that's what it's all about. It's about an Inca city on top of the mountain Machu Picchu, which by the way means the old peak, if you will. So Picchu in the original language is peak, and Machu Peak means the old peak. So that's as far as I gotten into the name history, but there are also some cool other facts that we might want to highlight. Alright, so the Machu Picchu city was built in the middle of the 15th century, so somewhat around 1450 actually, and it was done by the two rulers, and now forgive me of the pronunciation of these names because they're definitely wrong. So it is Pachacutec Inca Yupanqui, I guess, and it's Tupac Inca Yupanqui. These are the two rulers during which the ruling period or ruling time the city has been created, and it is rumored that over 750 people have constantly been living on here, and this city has been created as kind of a little royal town for them, but there is kind of a disbelief that this was one of the most famous and long-lasting cities of the Incas. In fact, as far as I got into the history, that's not really the truth. Actually, not even a century has been kind of managed to be hold on that city. So actually, during this time of the Spanish conquering of Peru, this city was abandoned then, but it hasn't been discovered until later in history. So the main reason why I found this so interesting is because we have this wonderful new map here in Planet Zoo. It is a wonderful new tropical map. In order to open it, by the way, if you haven't seen that already, you need to go to tropical map, and then you choose South America as the continent you want to go to, and then you have this wonderful new map. And I think we should definitely talk a little bit about this new map before we go on with a little bit of a history lesson here. So the main thing I wanted to point out is that this map is totally different. So normally we do get some biomes from Frontier that are specifically designed to have a flat zoo in that kind of sense. You can do whatever you want. You can do like I did with Yosemite Valley, build your own valley and stuff, but it's kind of, oh god, it's like time consuming as hell and also not the best for performance. However, this map already starts in a mountainish area, so all the terraforming around has already been done, and it's more or less just like a little background. Even like the rivers to the left and to the right are not actually rivers in terms of the game. You cannot even go that far down there. You need to stay a bit higher up, but they give you a map already quite high up in the mountains, which I think is a absolutely great take on it, and I really hope that Frontier is going to invest a bit more into this and maybe gives us some more of these type of maps in the future, because they add a lot of variation to it. So you have a lot of playgrounds now to play with here. You can do like the really nice mountain-ish temple, but you can also do like a normal zoo. You could go so with something totally modern. You can make like a very jungle-ish town on top, because in fact, and that's taking me back to the history, this mountain peak is at 2,500-ish meters. Let me just quickly check my facts. 2,430 meters tall. and it's not as high. It's somewhat like the Alps, but in fact it's in the Andes. So this is kind of interesting. And even though it is quite up high here, the climate is very tropical indeed. So it's pretty hot, and there are a lot of tropical flowers and stuff growing on here as well. So you will see me using those things in the end as well. Maybe I might want to add just a few little things. So the actual Inca architecture was a bit more defined with sandstone and very like the layout is quite modern-esque. It's something really with a city center, and then you have all these buildings built around there, and in that kind of sense the Incas were already pretty modern, and they had a pretty interesting system of these terrace design, and they were built for a few various reasons, which I found also very interesting. So the first and most, I think, important reason is to make sure that erosion and stuff doesn't affect the city too much. So in fact, this tropical climate paired with some storms and paired with a lot of heat and humidity may cause the mountain to tumble down at certain stages, and if you build a heavy building on top of it, you don't want it to be falling down the crest of the mountain. So therefore they built these terraces to ensure that the erosion isn't causing some major damages in here. However, it was also used to make sure that the soil was actually staying very good in terms of farming. So they made these also to kind of make farming possible, and so it's very clever how they indeed managed to do this. And yeah, I'm just like very impressed whenever I look at old, very ancient architecture of the Incas and Mayas. It's always very interesting to see how modern they've been already. So it's really interesting. But yeah, so Machu Picchu in fact was discovered in the late 19th century. So actually I didn't know that, but it seems that it has been discovered by a German businessman who was called Augusto Berns. So it's actually kind of impressive, to be honest. I didn't know that, but yeah, it's in that kind of time where, you know, people were trying to explore the jungles a bit more and stuff. Machu Picchu has been discovered, but as I said, it has been abandoned already quite early on. So like, in fact, 3 centuries before, not even decades. Decades would have been easy, but yeah, centuries before. And yeah, it's very interesting, and I found this map just screamed doing this. But again, back to the building style of the Incas. So they used a lot of sandstone and some smaller stones, but I figured because we do have this DLC now, and we do have these new temple pieces, which are in fact sandstone in a slightly different usage. So the Inca stuff you will see, or you would see, is a bit more in terms of the stones. They're a lot more smaller, a bit more roundish, and they create a bit more of a house-like building. They've been even more modern, with a lot more like a very modern brick structure, and clay. I think it was held together by clay. I don't have evidence on that, but I think most of the ancient society and building styles did use clay as kind of the mortar, if you will. But it almost had like a bit more brick style, and while the temples were like with these huge stones, it's not really accurate. But I think for the sake of this build, it makes sense to use these temple pieces. Also because they are quite huge. I mean, Frontier style, they are pretty huge, but to make this a starter map which has a decent performance, I figured it's maybe also pretty good to use these stones. You will also see that I used a lot of repetitive patterns and structures here. I will later on make this a bit more individual and delete some stuff. I did this so the map doesn't look as boring and repetitive, but again, I used a lot of these patterns to ensure again that the frame rate is okay for you guys and you can still build whatever you want. So this is a very, and now I think after our history lessons, it's really important to talk about this map in particular. So I chose to go with a lot of art director decisions, so to say. So I'm not rebuilding Machu Picchu one by one, mainly because there were a few issues, mainly the sun position and mainly some little issues with the overall shape of the mountain. I will talk about this a bit later, once we are doing the last bit of mountainish things. But and terraforming, but I decided to take some decisions that make it at least look really like Machu Picchu, but it gives you a bit more freedom in terms of your own design. So I left a lot more spaces. Actually, the city was a lot more dense and there were more buildings and stuff, but I didn't want to go too much because then there would be no more space for habitats and stuff. But I think the map as it stands at the end is very, very interesting to play at. And maybe I'm even tackling that. Depends a little bit on how people decide to vote and what people want to see on this channel. So I can really imagine maybe tackling this zoo in the future as well. But for now, I just wanted to make sure that this is a wonderful map for you guys. Obviously, we also have one animal species living here, which actually lives there as a natural habitat. So there are roaming around quite a few llamas, which are part of my family, as you know. They're part of the camel family. So some of my family members actually live there. You could say that this is partly one of our family building sites and family villages. So it is kind of, Machu Picchu belongs to my family, if you will. Okay, so that is how it is, and so that's why I'm just offering my living room to you. It's that generous I am. Okay, so funny part aside, I had some major issues with the habitat, and you might want to delete this habitat in order to run this game properly. I think the game struggles a lot with the fact that this is a ginormous, insanely big habitat, and the llamas are free roaming. I've hidden a lot of enrichment items everywhere so that the llamas are actually going everywhere. They obviously enjoy their habitat quite a bit because it's, as I said, basically the whole map. However, it's causing some major lag spikes at some points. So as soon as you really change a lot about the habitat in terms of building, it is all the traversable area for the llamas. So either you play in pause mode, which is highly recommended because then you won't have the lag spikes at all because the game does not constantly refresh the traversable area. But that means as soon as you hit play again, it kind of creates again major lag for a few minutes until it has all recalculated the traversable area. That's the first possibility. Or that could be the second one, is you delete this habitat and it would be enough to just take away one of the barrier items and then leave the llamas in your trade center and just redo it once you've done your zoo or whatever, because then you don't have the whole habitat as a set habitat, and the habitat is still pretty easy to kind of create at the end again. This is the main reason, because the traversal area is really that kind of thing that does make the performance so not bad, but for a moment it has to recalculate. And I totally get that. It's not even a criticism on the game. It really is such a powerful major thing that is happening in the background all the time that it causes the lag, and that's totally understandable, and it's mainly me taking this a little bit too far. So yeah, just make sure that you use this properly. Now that out of our way, we can talk about what I did here. I created a little bit of an entrance building here, which is in fact just an info kiosk with a few things. And I also created a bit of a starting connection. However, I did not connect the pathway yet to the entrance. This is something you might want to do, mainly because I decided to leave that open to you guys. You can do with it whatever you want. But yeah, this is the major build. The main build is done by now, so I'm speeding it up quite dramatically because it has been taking a long time to build that thing, and I've done a few major design iterations to kind of go for. At the beginning I really tried to redo it one by one, but I figured it's not working out the way I wanted it, and so I decided to go with a bit more of an open approach that gives you the feeling of Machu Picchu but still offers a bit of creative freedom to build the zoo, as I said already. Now, yeah, looking at what I've created here, I used a lot of the terraforming, and I didn't use too many pieces, just to make sure that you guys still have a decent performance and still can do whatever you want with this zoo. I was actually also doing some kind of connections here and there to make sure that the llamas are able to traverse everything. But then I figured, okay, there's something missing, and you can see here a huge cut. I decided to build a little mountain. Honestly, I intentionally initially created this only to get a nice screenshot for the episode, but then I figured, okay, why not make this like a major viewpoint for Machu Picchu? And I was checking some of the Google Maps images and some of the city layout, town layouts of Machu Picchu, and in fact, in terms of the actual location, this is a totally relatable thing, because that where we have the viewing platform now is actually the viewing platform in real life as well, only that these are the terraces for the farming, so rice fields and stuff are leading up to there. I didn't do them, I left it open for you to create a habitat, if you will. And yeah, now the last thing I'm doing is to provide the last bit of context to make the screenshot really nice, but also to give Machu Picchu the look that it deserves. And there was a second little mountain peak missing, which is very overgrown and very much in the background, only there to give the context of a very greenish area. And the rest of this map really is super close to the real life Machu Picchu map. So I'm not sure if Frontier did take this as an inspiration. I could really imagine, because that's what they were going for, and you have the llamas and stuff. So that makes total sense to me. But yeah, in fact, I decided to, as you can see, create a wonderful habitat for them. And here's a little bit of the process again, that you can see how that worked out. In fact, I was trying to connect all these things, and yeah, I just wanted to give this whole map the context that it deserves. And we also needed a few more ruins here, in terms that I wanted people to mainly go through there as well, to have a look at these ruins. And yeah, I mean, I think there's not much I can talk about, because it definitely got you already. I think you guys get the idea. And you can see here, this is what I did. I did some very intentional tree placing. So the major part about this was to ensure that the trees are not in the way of the view, but still give a little bit of context. And you can see that it's just like a little bit of a struggle here and there to create this habitat. You can see how huge this habitat got after a while. So you can see the llamas can really go in some nice places. I was trying to give them a bit of a connection here and there. I really wanted them to go through all these ruins. I want them to roam around free. And yeah, just give this bit of content, and also give them a little shelter, because they haven't had any. And yeah, I think it was a perfect idea to give them a shelter that is mainly located in an old ruin. That is about it. I mean, nothing major, just a very small little shelter. I put some beddings everywhere so that the animals at least go somewhere. And as I said, I've hidden some of the scent markers here and there. I've hidden some of the enrichment items. I put some trees and just the finishing touches. You know it. You know, that's the drill. That's how you do it. And then I bought a few more llamas to go in here, and the rest of it I did off screen. So all the fixing of traversable area issues and just some minor tweaks and changes. And yeah, there was just one last thing missing on this whole thing. And yeah, also I changed the altitude of the viewing platform a few times, because I wasn't happy with the view. So I was always checking the view if it makes sense, and at a certain point I was happy. It's not steep enough, to be honest. It needed to be a bit more steep, but I figured this is okay the way it is, because you need to still have some realistically traversable areas for the animals. And if you go that steep, it would have been a lot of a lot of tangling with the path tool and stuff, so I didn't want to go that way. But yeah, so the last bit we're doing is to give even more of a context. And as I was already earlier on talking of mountains that are really overgrown and giving the context, this is the last bit I decided to go for, because that is really the last bit that was missing. I enjoyed creating these things because terraforming, I think it has something really satisfying to it. But yeah, I didn't want to go too crazy here. I just want to make sure that this looks as overgrown as it can be. And I also wanted to make sure that this all is very nice and tidy indeed in terms of how it looks in the background. But it's all about the background. It's nothing major. And you guys are up to decide whatever you do with this overall map. I cannot wait to see what you guys are doing. However, now as you see the comparison in a few bits, here is what you guys need to do in order to get a DLC code. So it's not really related to this video. What you need to do is create a skyscraper blueprint that is mainly inspired by buildings of Buenos Aires or Rio de Janeiro, and make sure to send them into the workshop and send me the link to rudy.rencampbell@googlemail.com and by tomorrow evening, please. And I will then incorporate that into my new series that is starting on Thursday. It's gonna be a short series, but it's gonna be very interesting. And yeah, make sure to create a very simple, make sure you limit the pieces, don't go crazy. And if you need more, I put a very detailed briefing down below in the description. Here you see the final comparison. I am most certainly very happy with the output and with the outcome of Machu Picchu in here. Let me know in the comments down below how you like this, and please make sure to download the map and do whatever you want. Send me the screenshots. I'm super curious to see what you guys come up with, and I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. In case you liked it, please consider also subscribing. I'm always happy to have more people around, and yeah, just have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you next. Goodbye, guys.